Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is about 6 minutes after 6, and I'm just running a little bit late here this morning, and just sort of woke up and having a coffee. And this is One Child to Be a Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And I'm just putting the chat room open right now, and I'll pop the link into there. What we're talking about. Robert Burney's webpage is talking about his recovery process and sort of what he's learned and what he's a codependent therapist, and he's a grief counselor, Robert Burney. He's also an author. He's written a book called Codependence: The Dance of Wounded Souls, and that's what we're looking at. Is his material from his webpage is www.joy2meandyou.com, and the recovery process. So inner child healing. So we're still working on the inner child stuff. Pretty well almost all the way down through the information that's listed there for inner child work, but I just kind of want to go through some of the stuff on his pages. So he's talking about his recovery process. Robert Burney's a survivor, and he's also a counselor and a therapist. So it's just awesome. I like his stuff. He's a spiritual teacher, so it's some of it's pretty deep, to look at. But I still like looking at it. It's good information for me if I'm always continually kind of looking for information that'll help me out as a survivor. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Sorry I'm late. And I had no idea how long I'd be doing these shows, and I have a lot of people tuning in. I've almost got 34,000 shows listened to. That's a lot. So I appreciate everybody who's taking the time to tune into my shows. I'm going to pop the link into the chat room. That's www.joy, J-O-Y, 2meu.com/recovery_process.html. And I'm just going to pop that link into the chat room now. And we were looking at this on Friday, and we made our way through about, maybe not even halfway down the page. There's a lot of material here, and he's written a lot. Like when you go to his website, you can see he's got a site index there. And the site index will, show you like all the different categories and things that he has listed there, what he writes about and what he's talking about. So he says, like, sharing experience, strength, and hope, my recovery process. And this is part of the inner child work. And he says, in learning how to achieve some emotional balance in our lives, it is necessary to be able to look at ourselves, our own inner process, and the life dynamic itself from different perspectives. It is this looking at different levels. It is the process of processing. And processing is a matter of looking at, filtering, discerning, getting clear about what is happening at any given moment in our relationship with life, with others, with everything that is stimulating us. So these are excerpts from his book, and he sort of goes on to talk about his recovery process and taking action. And I'm not a counselor or a therapist or anything like that. You have to listen at your own discretion to all of my shows. I'm talking about abuse, and abuse is a sensitive subject. And if you find that abuse topic might bother you, you have to turn the show off. It is your discretion. And young people under the age of 18, you have to have permission to listen to my shows. Have someone who's older, who's an adult, who can help you make a decision, like a parent or caregiver or somebody who can help you make a decision whether or not you should be listening to my shows. There's a lot of adult content on my shows. They're really not for young children. They are for mature audience. And so, you have to protect yourself. Young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you, learn how to protect yourself online. Get the information. Just type into your browser, internet safety for children, online safety, whatnot. That'll take you to websites that will, show you how to protect yourself when you're online in a chat room situation or anything else, right? And when you're listening to stuff like this is definitely for adult, sort of more mature audience. And so, you have to be careful what you're listening to. If you're under 18, just have somebody listen to the show with you, and they can help you decide whether or not you should be listening. So Robert Burney's talking about his own process here, and also sort of talking about what examples too, between of what he's seen. Like, he's not giving real names or anything like that, but just what he's seen, as he's helping other people, to go through their journey, certain things. So it's kind of interesting what he has to say, and some of it I don't read out on here. Some of it I do take a look at. But he talks about integration and balance, the process. The process of processing is a dynamic that in many ways is easier to demonstrate over time than it is to explain. Explaining it on an intellectual level is complicated and difficult because the process itself involves being able to look at multiple levels. The recovery process is spiritual, emotional, and mental, and these levels are separate but intimately interrelated, so spiritual, emotional, and mental. So he says, in learning how to achieve some emotional balance in our lives, it's necessary to be able to look at ourselves, our own inner process. So that's what he was talking about earlier. In trying to explain the dynamic here, he's going to describe a relationship. So this is from the Dance of Wounded Souls trilogy book. 1, History 5. It says, everything with the illusion exists in relationship to the rest of the illusion. And this means that communicating truth about any facet of the illusion can be done in relationship to a variety of factors. And this involves perspective through multiple levels. It can make a great deal of difference whether a facet of truth is being described individually or in relationship to, for example, like to God, objective reality, human emotional process, etc., or if the relationship itself is being described. So that's from one of his books. So he was really quite deep, you know. He really gets really right into the whole spiritualist stuff of this whole thing. And I don't know, you know, like I'm a Christian, so some of it makes sense to me and some of it doesn't. Some on some level makes sense to me, and so, you know, but some of it's way over my head, and I just you know, I just take away from it what I get from it. And so, you know, everybody's different, and everybody's, you know, I don't know. We all see things differently, I think, and everybody's been through different things, right? But a lot of the stuff that he's talking about really makes sense to me, and the other stuff is kind of a little bit over my head. You know, I'm a Christian, so, you know, I'm not that far out there as far as the, you know, sort of left or to the right, you know what I mean? But I can see, like, some of his stuff that he's talking about does make sense to me, so I don't know. But he's pretty good, and I like what he has to say. He says, a very important part of my process of finding some balance in my life, of learning how to see myself and how I relate to others in life more clearly, was to get clear that everything in my process relates back to me and my growth process. So he says, I had to get past my codependent belief that I was doing something for you or you were doing something to me. So here's another quote from a newsletter that is excerpted on my topics index page. And he says, which brings me to the second thing, which I believe is the spiritual truth. I teach best what I need most to learn. So I teach people how to love themselves because I am trying to learn how to love myself. This is from Robert Burney. He says, I learned to always listen to what I was saying because though I have no control whether anyone else hears me, I do have the power to choose to hear myself. And there's always something in that, in what I am saying that applies to me and my process at the moment. And so I think it's interesting what Robert Burney said here. You know, this is exactly what I'm doing. Like, I'm doing this, you know, one child abuse survivor to another, really, and it is just my healing journey, and it's really for me. As much as if it helps somebody else out there, that's great. But you know, if it doesn't, it's helped me out because it's given me the ability to take a look at these, what happened to me as a child in very, you know, small increments, Monday through Friday. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm busy usually working full time, and I usually, you know, I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and then plus I have a life on the outside of that. I've got a sweetheart, and I've got pets, and I've got a life to live and things to do and laundry to get done, and you know, just like everybody else, bills got to get paid, and you know, I have a personal life too. I mean, I like to do things like, you know, I like to read, and I'm very much into the Bible, so I'm doing a Bible study course and all kinds of stuff like that, and I'm very, you know, quite busy like most people, so I don't have time to be in the past all the time. You know, like it's not healthy, I don't think, as I was talking about on Friday, for myself to spend all that much time in the past during the day. I got things to do, and I need to be able to be present. I know for years I spent a lot of time in the past, and it would, you know, I almost kind of equated it to a depression because it's hard for me to pull myself back to the present to get things done and to allow myself to take care of myself, right? And so I think that, you know, for me to do this healing work, is this half-hour little journey here in the morning, really it's a little bit longer than that because I usually spend some time beforehand thinking a little bit about the process I'm working through at the time. So I'd say probably about an hour. You know, so it's an hour during the day that I can actually look at the past and sort of try to make sense of what happened to me as a child and why I feel the way I do, what I do, behaviorally and everything else. So, sort of nice, manageable chunk of time to spend on it. Whereas before, you know, I'd spend all day in it, and then I felt, you know, very depressed. And then, by, you know, 2 or 3 weeks would go by, and I was still in that same funk, you know, and just feeling horrible. But I seem to have figured it out after 4 years, you know, that these little manageable chunks work better for me, just so that I can still live my life. You know what I mean? Like I was letting life just totally pass me by. I was really stuck in a mess 4 years ago, and all the way through there before that. So, this has been a good. I like what Rob Brady has to say there. You know what I mean? Like when he's doing this, when he's helping other people, he's really helping himself. And I think that's really the way anybody should look at this. Doctors and psychotherapists and counselors and what are just people like you and me, and they have problems too. They're just normal people who happen to want to try to help people. They're moved or motivated to try to help people. So in that, they must be helping themselves, because otherwise it wouldn't make much sense to be doing the work. There's nobody on this planet unscathed by perfection. There's nobody we're working, we're striving towards perfection all the time, but a lot of people are. And the thing is, there's nobody on the planet that's unscathed by the destruction, I should say, and isn't working towards the perfection. Like a lot of people aren't that deep, so they're not looking at it like that. But there's a whole portion of society that really is, and really seeking spiritual truth and speaking truth and seeking it. And so, I think for people who are in the, I guess, the industry or the business or whatever you want to call it, the human services, people are really trying to help people out, are generally also trying to help themselves too, because that's the whole purpose. Because as we help somebody else, we learn to help ourselves, and I think that's why I thought, well, I'll just do this show in the morning, because I thought, I'm sure there's other people out there like survivors of abuse who just need some validation. They need to hear from somebody who's been there and somebody who understands how hard it is and understands, how difficult it can really be to come out from behind the 8 ball of being abused as a child. And I thought, I just wanted to be one more voice out here for people. And in doing so, it does help me, because I get to go through my process. And so, hopefully it's helping somebody else, right? And so he was talking also, we'll scroll down the page a little bit, on Friday that, somebody was saying that his stuff is just too hard. It's just too much, for the emotional honesty of his work. And he said that, like, if people were offended by his work and what he writes, chances are they're just not being emotionally honest with themselves. Because people, a lot of people are still very much in denial and not really, and they don't want to have to see this stuff or think about it, but that's their choice. And that's what I said on my shows. Instead of, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to minimize what happened to me as a child. I'm not going to minimize abuse, period. Because that's it's to falsify it. The truth is truth, and abuse is horrible and horrific, and it hurts. And that's what we're trying to stop, and that's what we're trying to make sure that no child should ever have to go through again, really, or no person, but especially children, right? And so, this is, we can't the idea of truth. What is truth? Truth is everything to me. Because my world was made up of people who hurt me and then made it like it was no big deal. And society said, oh, it's no big deal, Social workers, oh, there's no big deal. We'll just leave you in the home, no problem. My own mother, oh, it's no big deal if I almost kill you, no sweat. You just take your lumps and smile, And my, abuser dad, who's still living today, is like, well, no big deal to him. Oh, just forgive and forget. Well, sure, that's because you were on the giving end. Like he was on the giving end. He wasn't on the receiving end of all of this abuse. All right, he was an abuser, so he was the abuser. So he's one of them. My mother was actually my main abuser, but he was horrible to my whole family, my siblings and my mom. He was horrible to me too. And the thing is he was the abuser, so of course he's okay. Oh yeah, forgive and forget, because it was easy for him. He was the one who was doing the abusing, right? Telling me, his daughter, who he abused, to forgive and forget. I'm like, well, that must be easy for you to say. Yeah? You're on the other end. You were the one giving the boot to your wife and to your sons and to me. And that's why it's easy for him to forgive and move on, because he was the one with the boot, giving the boot, and the rest of us were taking his abuse. And so it's a little bit easier to pass it off and blow it off when you're on the other side and you're the abuser, right? So I just think that's really funny. But the thing is I don't talk to him anymore. I've cut him completely off, and I cut my whole family off. Thank God. It's about time. But anyway, this is just the issue. People don't want to be on. They don't want to see the truth. Yeah? No, because they need to have to do something about it. Because that's what truth is. Truth is actually it forces people to move to an action. You're either going to take one side or you're going to take the other. You know what I mean? And so, people in my family thought it was perfectly okay for my dad to rape my mother. I mean, I literally spelled it out for him. I said, look, Dad raped Mom. You all know this. He not just once, over and over and over again. Oh, do they care? Oh, no, they really don't. They just think that's fine. It's like, okay, well, then I don't need to hang around with you guys because that is completely wrong in my books, right? I'm not talking just rape. I'm talking beat her, hurt her physically, and trashed her whole mind, her soul, and her body. And my mother, I don't excuse what she did to me at all. At all. I will never, ever excuse it away, condone it, or back it up. My mother was horrific to me and hurt me badly. But the thing is that she was also being abused. She was also being hurt. And here my abuser family, the few members that are left today, have the nerve to sit around and say that it was just no big deal that the way that my dad treated my mother. And I'm just like, you people are sick, man. Because there was something really wrong with that. You know what I mean? So Robert Bertie says that forcing ourselves to take action. This is the next portion of this. And he says, this is of course a dance of balance, because there are also times in which I need to force myself to take some action, which is a very different thing from trying to force an outcome. And this is from an updated announcement that he did in March of 2000. So he's got all kinds of material here. You have to go and check it all out. He says taking action is one of the most valuable tools in the recovery process and is very much connected to the principle of taking responsibility. It is very important to become proactive in our own healing process. And that means that we need to align our will and our willpower with healing instead of with the disease. So in our disease, we were reacting to life out of a dysfunctional belief system. So we were playing the game of life according to a set of rules that do not work to bring us happiness, serenity, and fulfillment. And there is no happily ever after on this plane in these bodies. The goal is not to do life right in order to reach a destination. He says true success is achieved by learning, growing, and enjoying the journey, not by reaching a specific destination. So he says life is a journey, a process. It's not a destination. Life is continuous and constant change and growth. And we were taught to fight and try to control the change, to resist the growth. So we were taught to swim upstream, to go against the flow. No wonder we get tired sometimes. He says we were taught that death is a great tragedy and that we should spend our lives fearing it, ignoring it. We were taught to fear death and to never live life. That's backwards. He's got it so right in a lot of places here. Death is a transition, a transformation. Death is a milestone in the longer journey. It's not a tragedy to be feared. It is an eventuality to be accepted. And what is tragedy is not enjoying living while we are here. That's so true. People are so afraid of dying that they can't even enjoy living. It's a whole fear-driven, fear-based thing. And then other people just think, oh, well, it's just no big deal. There's nothing past this point anyway. And so we just go off into oblivion. And everybody's entitled to their own beliefs, but I tell you, mine's so much a better belief. You know what I mean? Like, I choose to believe it because why not? Makes good sense to me. I like what he has to say there. He says, living can only be done one day at a time, and today is all we really have. So if we spend all of our time focused on the future, we will miss out on today. And also, if we spend all of our time in the past, we'll miss out on today. But he didn't say that, that's me. But, that's the truth, right? We have to we have to be able to live our lives, too. And as survivors of abuse, many times, we'll spend way too much time in the past. But that's because we're trying to get a hold of something. We're trying to... I understand that because I do it, And sometimes I'm trying to get a hold of something and I'm trying to allow myself to feel something I need to feel, and that's okay. That's part of my healing journey. That's part of the work, But I don't do it all day, and I really try to not allow myself to do that for a whole day or 2 or 3 days, right? Because I need to live in the present. I got things to do. My pets need to be taken care of. I have a sweetheart who's, sometimes isn't necessarily the most supportive person, but he's not bad to me. He just doesn't quite understand where I'm coming from half the time. But the thing is have a life built with him, and he's terminally ill, so that takes a lot of our time. And I got things to do, right? Plus, I'm supposed to be working. I'm just off right now, but normally I work full time, so there you go. And I've had a month off, which is I consider to be a vacation. Thank God. I was really tired, but this is the thing. I'm usually pretty busy, and so to be living too much for the future and just always not enjoying each day because we're just too busy looking toward a goal. It's like, oh, but I'll never get that goal, and then depression comes because we're like, it'll never happen, and and pretty soon before you know it, we're all sad and or angry or down because our goals aren't met yet. We can only live one day at a time. I like what Robert Burney has to say there. We can only live today. We only know about today, and we only know about the next few hours. We really don't even know about the rest of it. So we really need to be happy in the present, and that's what I'm trying to learn how to do. Because I can be happy when there's a lot of people around. I can be happy when there's things going on that's fun or exciting. But when I'm sitting around in my own space, in my own skin, that's where I'm trying to learn how to find that joy and how to be happy. Because for so many years I was just so completely down. That's just from growing up in this hellhole. And then no real support. And I didn't get any help, and I didn't get any, and I should have. I just didn't realize that I should until the age of 41. And so, now I'm working on it, right? But it is a process that it has taken me a long time to get where I am today. So it's not easy, and but I sit there and I try to remember that, hey, today is really all we know about. And so, and to spend all day in the past and grieving and mourning is what it was doing, and it really wasn't helping me out. I needed to kind of be able to take it in manageable pieces. So one day at a time. I really like that. It's all we really have, he says. So we'll finish this up. We'll probably take a look. We're about halfway through the page here, so we'll take a look at this tomorrow, and maybe we'll move on a little bit there tomorrow, but we'll see what's left here on this article. There's a few more pieces from this actual inner child healing work I want to look at. So thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm sorry I was late there. Tomorrow I should be on time. I'm really hoping on it. And I appreciate you all being here, and I hope you have a good day. If you need something, get a hold of me here on Blog Talk Radio or Facebook or wherever, I'm all over the place. So if you need something, get a hold of me, and if I can help you find any information or whatever, I'll be sure and I'll try to help you look for it. And otherwise, have a good day. And, if you can't cope, you do the right thing. You get yourself some help. I'm telling you, it is our responsibility. 2 of my brothers killed themselves, and it was their responsibility to get help. There were people that were trying to help them. There was, even within the prison, the penal system, there was people trying to help them, and, they didn't want any help. They just allowed my parents to win the fight. They allowed my parents to destroy them. One of my brothers killed himself at the age of 33, and the other one killed himself at the age of 37. And, they just allowed my parents to destroy their lives. And so I thought, I am not doing that. I made a deal with myself. And I said, no way. I would definitely reach out and call a crisis line or whatever I have to do. But I'm not going to let my parents win this fight at all. So, they think they got away with it, but they'll stand in judgment. And, I'm not going to destroy myself just because they tried to destroy me, right, and a sibling. So make sure, you get some help. You can't cope. You make sure you do the right thing, and you get yourself some help by calling crisis line or calling somebody. But you make sure you reach out, right, and don't allow yourself to spiral downward. And you deserve so much better, right? We all do, right? Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.